Welcome to the Lockbox! Lockbox!
Welcome to the Lockbox, Lockbox! Hello guys, I'm Flying Fury, and I'm joined by the Tesseract.
Hello.
And also, and her.
Howdy how.
Today guys, we've got some exciting news for you about the Armories, and we'll also be talking about the next game update as well. So where shall we start, guys?
I think it should be the Armories. We've just come off the back of watching their live stream tonight.
Yes, I'm liking the look of them as well, because they're very Batcave orientated.
So exciting.
It is.
Long overdue for these things. They've really pushed the boat on this. I think it's. I only envisaged a really simple really simple concept. So you just select from a list, but they've really gone the whole 9 yards on it. I'm giving you a lot of things. I think we'll start from the beginning. Couple of notes I jotted down. I think the most important thing to say, based on what Jens was saying, is that there's no prices, no costs, no release date, no finalized names. Nothing has been planned. What we saw tonight was purely a sneak peek of what's to come.
Yes, it's a work in progress. They stated that quite clearly.
It's not even up on PC test yet, so
Yeah, just
everything is subject to change.
So I guess one of the important notes to say was that it's not based on amenity nodes. It can be free placed.
Yeah, because that was one of my questions. I thought, what are we going to do if we've got 4 armories and only 4 amenity slots? But it is free placement outside of amenity slots. I mean, so that's good.
Yep, and then the next thing was every single character that you have on your account will get one armory.
Much like you got one free deed with every character.
Yeah. Additional ones can be purchased on the marketplace. You can have 4 per base for a total of 16, which is quite excessive, I think. I don't really think anyone's going to need more than that.
God, I'm up at like 8 just for my main character already. Like planning it out, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to need a lot.
What they said was it's basically you purchase additional ones in order to support the game. That I'm a bit shaky on. I mean, as legendary players, you pay your subscription. You do get your bonus station of 7 cash, depending on if you're EU or US. Would have been nice to have an extra perk as a legendary and say, okay, here's 2 for the fact that you have been subscribing for this long, but I'll hold off on any kind of personal judgment on that until we know what the cost will be for these things.
No matter what the cost, I'm going to have 4 in a line in my base with all of my different costumes from throughout my superhero career.
I think I can see why they don't want to just give people 2, and it's because when you get 1 free, it's nothing more than a taster. You still need to respec if you need to change. It's just a shortcut back to your original or main spec. But if they give you 2, then suddenly you can just have your 2 set up and flip between them and never need to go near a respec machine again. That said, what I think might have been more interesting would be to give 1 per deed. Because at the moment, once you hit 4, in order to get your 5th armory, not only do you need to buy another deed, you then also need to buy another armory. I think that's going to stop a lot of people from going above 4. If they have no use for another base, then that's an extra cost.
I could go with that. That could work.
Another question I asked is I saw the power bar above the generator when they were looking at the armory stuff, whether it was going to cost in-game cash or marks of triumph to actually power them, but they're not going to cost anything. As long as your generator's powered up, your armories will be usable, or they will be usable anyway, sorry.
But what
they're not going to cost anything.
They didn't touch upon is, okay, it doesn't actually cost you marks or additional cash, but does having one or several in your bases cause your generator to burn out faster. So you have to pay cash to replenish the batteries. Does having these additional armories cause you to pay, cause them to burn out faster? So you have to then top it up again faster.
I don't think it. I mean, depending on the number of amenities you've got in your base already, it doesn't have any extra cost on your generator, does it? I mean, if you had a mailbox, or if you had the mailbox and the auction house and stuff, it doesn't make a difference.
I'm not sure exactly how that works, but there's a couple of hints that we got tonight that we should maybe leave until after we've gone over the armory stuff in detail. Just a couple of things we'll come back to in a bit.
Sure. Okay, the next point I had on the list was that it will display your gear at the time of imprinting yourself. So the style, the colours, as well as your skill point allocation, your power point allocations for both roles. So whether you're, in this case it was Earth, so his tank and damage rolls, it stores everything at the time of imprinting.
Yeah, it'll save both of your loadouts essentially. So even if you've got a full tank spec, if you have a DPS loadout that you've made out of that, then that will get saved as well. And you can, I mean, what I really was impressed by was you can rename them, which is obviously, I think that was going to be fairly essential given how many you can have. But you can also give them little icons so that you can see more clearly exactly what type of spec it is. And when you come to change them, there are 4 that you can switch between on the fly. So you can load 4 into, it's kind of like an armory loadout. And you go into your base generator to set those up, and you can put in any of the ones from any of your bases. And you can set them into what is on the control pad. It's going to be a D-pad assignment. And then when you're in the field, it's the old loot buttons of L2 and R2 at the same time, and it will bring up this icon in the middle of the screen, and you can hit up, down, left or right on your D-pad and switch between your available ones. And it's got these icons that you've set yourself that you seems to be able to choose between quite a few of them actually.
Yeah, it seemed like a really intuitive system. There was no complexities to it. Simple button pushes to switch as and when you require. The icons, so you can differentiate between each of the ones that you can have. They've covered all the bases there, I think.
Something I want to touch on again that might need some clarification for me, but maybe some others as well. For example, you're in your tank spec and you're in your tank role. You've got your tank gear on. Your armory is set up with a DPS loadout, DPS skill points allocated, DPS armor. You can change into your DPS role, but you can't change back into the tank role with your tank armor and stuff. You'd need 2 armories for that.
Yeah, and that's what I said earlier when why 2 armories becomes such a big deal is that one lets you go straight to one spec. It's just a shortcut respecking. But 2 lets you actually have a full DPS spec and a full off-roll spec that you can just switch between at will. Sometimes even in combat.
No, it's just that I anticipate that some people might be expecting to be able to switch roles and then switch back again if they've just got the one armory. But seems not.
And then an important point that they brought up was you must have your gear in the bank or your inventory, but not in your shared bank. So if your controller gear is in the bank and you hit the armory spec for controller you've stored, it will take the gear out of the bank, put it on you until you switch to something else or put it back yourself physically.
I think it's going to be really nice because I've gotten fed up of carrying 3 or 4 different armor sets in my inventory.
It's going to be very handy all round for just for switching roles, switching into PvP gear. If you're into that type of thing, as long as you've got enough inventory or bank space, it's going to be great.
I mean, even just styles. I mean, for so many years we've been wanting to be able to save our look, and you can do that with your armories. You can have them all set so that they're all spec'd exactly the same way, and the only thing that they change between is how your character looks.
That's going to be awesome.
Really looking forward to it. I just hope it doesn't cost 1,000 station cash, because that would be too much.
Yes, that would be quite excessive. What's that, about £8 for
Yeah.
those?
Well, it's an entire DLC, so.
And one final point I'll touch on there. There is a cooldown on when you can switch to your stored or imprinted armory loadouts and styles, etc. That's only in combat. When you're out of combat, you can flip between them as many times as you want. But while you're in combat, say you're in DPS role and you need a tank because your tank's gone down and you can switch to it, it will then be on cooldown. So they didn't give a specific time, but from the way Jens was talking about it,
he mentioned 10 minutes. It's not official, it's just what he wants to see. He's looking at it being a 10-minute cooldown.
Okay. Makes sense. And then, sorry, for PvP, you can only switch while you're out of combat. Cannot be done while in combat.
To note, the cooldown that you get in PvE when you switch in combat, when you come out of combat, that's no longer in effect. You will be able to switch back and forth again as much as you like, but the cooldown is still there, so if you go back into combat, it will still be on cooldown. So that's if you go into combat and then you switch to one of your armories, it goes on cooldown. When you drop out of combat again, you can switch as much as you like, but if you go back into combat, the cooldown has remained, and presumably the timer on it still keeps going, as even if you're out of combat. It's not you have to be in combat for the full length of the cooldown, but
yeah,
but it will still be there.
And apart from those little tidbits of information, they weren't really giving much else away. There was no real news about the next DLC or any new power sets, any of the Red Lantern stuff that people are being banding around at the moment.
There was some hints, and this is what I said we'd come back to later. A couple of times they mentioned stuff to do with how the armories and immunities are going to interact. They didn't go into details about it. This is just tiny little hints from what they've said, and they were talking about having to balance them, and this having an effect on the generator. And the impression I'm getting is that you'll either be able to buy more immunity slots, possibly, or something along those lines, but you're only going to have enough power to run a certain number of either immunities or armories. And you're going to have to find the balance between what you want to do with that. But that's just, as I say, a couple of comments that they made about things are coming in the future with the generators. They're planning a couple of new fun things, they were saying, expanding on how the generators work. And they gave a couple of little hints, but there was nothing confirmed at all, just some offhand comments. That would be interesting though, because the generators haven't really done very much so far.
No.
Lots in the pipeline. But Armories are a step in the right direction. Definitely looking forward to that.
Oh, they did also mention about the League halls as well. About they gave a little snippet about the statues that you're going to be able to get in there. So, for example, different achievements in the league. Say if you was the highest DPS in a certain raid, or I don't know how it works, or the least deaths, you'll you'll get your statue, or you'll have the ability to display a statue of yourself in the league halls. They mentioned it was going to be in like an Olympic podium sort of thing, but those statues will be posed as well, or they'll be in a pose. And he made it quite clear that the mannequins in your armories, they won't be posed. They'll be in a static mannequin type pose, but the statues in the league halls, they will be in some type of pose. I'm not sure what ones.
Lovely.
But apart from that, anything else to report?
Update 31 hit. PlayStation 4 launch. I try and bring some of the more popular topics on the official forums to the discussion, but it's all centered around a few reported bugs and people's feedback on Update 31, which was largely cosmetic, paving the way for enhanced graphics for new content and things.
Very, very shy.
Bit of a quiet week.
We have. I don't think. I mean, we've on the show gone over the news that Game Update 32 is expected to be released sometime within the next month, which would be nice. And it's going to include a whole bunch of different things. Armories are coming not as a part of Update 32. They're coming probably not as a part of 32. They'll be their own thing. But likewise, sometime in December is the expected time for them. But Update 32 is going to include PvP Season 2. Which I think probably the biggest note is that they're removing lockouts from PvP, which is something that drove a lot of people away. You won't have to reset anymore. You can PvP all day and keep getting marks for it. So I certainly wasn't a huge fan of having to spend replay badges in PvP. And I know quite a few people left the game because of that, so...
Yeah, it makes no sense. You don't go into PvP for one match and one match only.
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
It's something you spend the day doing and then you maybe don't do it for the rest of the week.
Yeah, when the lockouts came in, I mean, I wasn't much of a PvPer in the first place, but when the lockouts came, I'd touch a couple of matches and then I wouldn't bother at all. But if I know that rewards can be consistent as long as I keep participating and or winning, then I might be more inclined to get involved. But it's a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction, isn't it?
It is indeed, sir.
What else was Game Update 32 then?
A lot of people talking about the new Sorcery and Nature revamps.
That was the other big thing.
Yeah, no new visuals for those. But there will be a balance and tweak update to the powers.
Yeah, so if anyone's playing Sorcery and or Nature and want to see some changes, definitely now's the time to post your thoughts on the official forums before it's too late.
I mean, I've never thought that Nature was very pretty anyway.
I was kind of expecting some updates for the Nature graphics.
Maybe some flowers, as well as those weeds and vines.
I think the shapeshifts could do with better animations as well.
I think the reasons for not doing it is they're up against the clock. They've got so much DLC planned with the PlayStation 4 launch, and I think the investment they did for Fire and Ice they couldn't do for the other power sets. It took them too much time, and the payoff just wasn't worth it. I think that's just me guessing. I might be wrong. I wouldn't blame them if that was the case. I'd rather they focus on new content anyway and just balance the powers or update bugs or fix issues.
The other thing discussed on that FNL was that DLC 9 is likely to be due next year, sometime early next year.
No!
Yeah.
But in the meantime, we should be seeing the seasonal event fairly soonish, in the next couple of weeks, I would say.
We have Larfleeze back. I think we have Larfleeze back again. I don't think they've got a new seasonal planned, although there are new feats, base items, of course. But yeah, DLC 9 is expected to hit test server in early January, and the delay on that has apparently been just because it's the holiday season coming up. They don't want to be doing it when they're short-staffed and people aren't in a lot or anything like that. So
Make them work on Christmas Day. That's what I say. Give us more content.
So if it's coming to test server in the first couple of weeks of January, it's usually 2 or 3 weeks on test server before it hits live. We can expect it by the end of January, I reckon, beginning of February.
Cool. So use this as an opportunity to get the test server downloaded if you want to give it a go, I say.
You need to be a legendary subscriber on the PC for that, though.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I think that's all we've got for this edition of Lockbox, guys. Thanks for joining us again. We hope you enjoy the show. Any comments, any ideas, any feedback, please put them in the comments below. But as for me, Flame Fury, Tesseract and Anher, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, and see you next time.
Bye.